Legislative Priorities Workshop. We're going to call this meeting to order. Our Legislative Priorities Workshop. If I could have the council up on the dais, we want to be respectful of Representative Fabricio's time and get this meeting underway.
It's by design.
All right.
Can Tony, Tony, the front door to town hall is locked. Can somebody open it? Nelson Diaz is here.
All right, welcome everyone to our Legislative Priorities Workshop here at the Town of Miami Lakes. I'd like to defer to town staff now to share the presentation on the proposed legislative priorities.
Yes, Vice Mayor, thank you very much. If you remember, last year, later on in the process, the council got together in a workshop in a smaller room down the hall with the elected officials that represent the town. The outcome of that was that was a good step in this whole process. Both the state legislators and the council decided this year to build that into the annual calendar of developing the legislative priorities. You, as the council, developed an initial list of priorities. This step here now is to go over these priorities together with the elected officials, and then what comes out of the will of the council, what comes out of this workshop, then will be presented to you again for final adoption at the January council meeting. So you can say, that's it, these are our priorities, and we're moving forward. So, some of this is just historical, and I know everybody has time crunch. Let me get you a mic.
Yes, we have one.
Right in front of Nikita? Yeah. You gotta turn on. Press, is there a button there? Give it, hold it.
Hello, got it. All right, so just to make sure I understand, what we're gonna see today is a set of preliminary projects and costs that will be discussed further by the town council and then brought to us at some point in the future as a package request with priorities. Is that right?
They've already gone over most of these already, and they adopted them as a preliminary list of projects to present to you. Here, what we're doing is to presenting those to you to get your feedback, because those of you, obviously, who participated in that process in Tallahassee have a much better understanding of what may be doable, what are the priorities in Tallahassee, et cetera, to be able to get that feedback between the council and you and your colleagues, to be able to say, okay, we're going to eliminate this one, maybe add some more over here, and so forth. And then in January, based on the feedback and the exchange here today, they'll adopt a final version of this, and then we'll move forward with presenting the packets for you for presentation as a appropriation request.
Right,
That's-
we want
go ahead, please.
to, we want to be able to use your,
Sure.
your input to be able to reprioritize.
So
the list.
just based on that timeline, and I want to mention that your lobbyist, Nelson Diaz, is here in the room, and he is an integral part of this process because he, I file the appropriations request and I lobby for them and I fight for them on your behalf, but his paid job, he goes up there and he also does that all the way up to the executive branch. So one of the things on timing, January, I think, is probably a good time to have this wrapped up by. We want to have our appropriations projects kind of packed up. The sooner the better. I find that the sooner that we have a good, realistic project that's fully packaged up and filed, we can start talking about it.
Correct.
We start, obviously, Senator Avila's office is here, and he'll be an integral part of that as well.
Yeah, this whole timeline I've discussed with Nelson. So
Perfect.
he's aware that the final adoption by the council will be at the January council meeting. He had hoped that it would be sooner.
Right.
The kind of fly in the ointment is that our council doesn't have an official council meeting in December. So it kind of convoluted the schedule, plus elections late in the
Right.
year, the whole thing. So it just laid out that this was the opportunity, and then the final adoption by the council at the January council meeting. And we'll start preparing them. After tonight's meeting, based on tonight, the formality of the council adopting in January will probably be just that. We'll start preparing. We have the packets. We'll get the information. We'll have them ready. So before the end of January, you'll already have them and ready to submit.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay? So, as we know, the first set are a series of water projects or drainage projects. The first one being Miami Lakes on 82nd Avenue, in the area of just north of, or just south of the town border, south of 170th. The next project is a drainage project in the area close to Veterans Park, formerly known as Picnic Park West, along 82nd Avenue, which is also named Montrose Road. No, the council has not developed that priority. Right. What we kind of broke it down into drainage projects, other types of projects like road projects, and then some policy issues that the council wanted to address with you. So the next project is this one in Miami Lakes, in West Lakes. West Lakes is the neighborhood in Miami Lakes, which is west of 87th Avenue, south of Miami Gardens, or Miami Lakes Drive. Huh? Correct. And we also have this next project, which is Miami Lakes Royal Gardens Estates, which is, this is the area near Royal Oaks Park. So it's west of 87th Avenue and just south of the park. So that would be the area, because that's your point of reference, just north of Satori. This is a Royal Oaks, Royal Gardens Estates Phase 3. This is the area just west of Royal Oaks Park. We have Miami Lakes Loch Lomond Phase 2. This should be the final area in Loch Lomond that, Omar? This would be the final section of Loch Lomond that is in need of a drainage project, I'm almost sure? Or is there still another area of Loch Lomond that's also in need? The last one, okay. So if this project would be the final one. We also have this section here, which is Miami Lakes Colorama Estates Drainage. It's 142nd. Between 87th and 89th. We have the project that we just spent 2 hours beating up, which was the Miami Lakes Optimus Park. This was taking out of the taking out of the master plan for Miami Lakes Optimist Park, which would be the drainage, and then the restoring of the area back to a baseball-ready facility. So that's why it's 10.5. It's not just the underground work. It's the drainage and then the restoration to make it baseball-ready once again. Right.
Representative, just to help you out, based on that discussion that we just had, I came away with the feeling that we don't have enough information to proceed with that. So I was going to take that out of our priorities come January. And I think my colleagues would agree because we still need, remember, as Jeremy said, the amount of linear feet. We don't have concrete numbers to be able to present. But I think we should try it, just not right now, is what I came away from that discussion.
Right.
And I don't think we're going to have that for you by the time session starts or by the time the appropriations projects are due. So that's why at least I plan to, move to amend our priorities to, remove that project come January.
Okay, so under the infrastructure, roads and bridges, obviously the most important project under this category is the 59th Avenue roadway extension. This is the one that had been applied for when the local support grants were in the mix. And there was a request for $3 million to complete the funding for this project. I think Senator-elect, is it Senator-elect or is he a senator already? That's already done deal? Okay. Senator Avila had applied on our behalf for this project, and it's back before you for consideration during the normal legislative session. All right. There's another project here that the council had proposed, which would be the community center build-out. This is a project that is being built by the Grahams and developed by the Grahams. It's a senior living residential development. In addition to that, they're partnering with another partner to put in an ALF, extra care center there. And then the Grahams are building out for the town the shell of a community center for seniors. The town's responsibility then would be for the build-out, and that's the request for the state appropriation, $500,000 for the build-out, the interior build-out of the shell that the Grahams would build for us. Well, we probably will have to, because we have already, Jeremy left already, but we have already paid money towards the design of the interior. We have, we'll probably have some other expenses that will go towards the build-out, but the reality is that we really won't know what the price of the build-out is until we bid it out. And this estimate of $500,000 was developed before it was, a lot of the big boom in construction costs. So we expect that even though we've been estimating $500,000, by the time we bid it out for construction and complete the plans, the construction drawings and everything, our contribution will be a lot of the design and the construction drawings, and then whatever $500,000 won't cover as far as actual construction cost. That's just an idea, an aerial view of more or less where the, it's off of Commerce Way on the west side. Now, there's some other items here with regard to statutory or policy items that are not appropriations. And that all defer to the members of the council to chime in and speak to them. Councilmember Fernandez, I know you had one that you wanted to talk about with the senior rebates.
Correct. Mine is the first one, Lorenzo, and if you can kind of help me out with this one as well. But essentially, what we created last year was a program to give rebates to seniors based on, how the cost of living had gone up, to attempt to give seniors a rebate for some of those expenses, and essentially make it so that their ad valorem obligations to the town be as close to nothing as possible, right? We did encounter in the implementation of that program, we stumbled in, with some roadblocks that made our implementation less than desirable. So we were kind of looking for, and I'll let you kind of jump in.
Basically, the law doesn't allow us as a municipality to go ahead and amend where the statute provides for a standardized way of taxing. So property tax is set by the state, so we can't add that kind of rebate based on just their seniors. That's just already fixed, and it's also fixed at the county
Lorenzo.
level. Okay, I'm sorry. It's already fixed at the county level as far as rebates are concerned, and it's based by the statute. We can't go ahead and amend that. So I think what the councilman wants to do is give municipalities the flexibility for seniors and perhaps other vulnerable adults or certain segments of the population that are considered needy, the ability to be able to provide rebates as necessary.
I'll always believe in giving senior citizens or absolutely anybody tax breaks whenever we possibly can. So I would love to look at it. If you have some proposed language, and you would send it to my office, I would love to look at it. It doesn't need to be statutory, like a bill type language, but bullet points, just a little bit more than what we have here. I'd love to see it.
I'll work with the council member, and we'll send that to you.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Thank you so much.
The second one, yeah, the former Vice Mayor Jeff Rodriguez had proposed this, and what this deals with, Representative, is the Save Our Homes doesn't apply to the local school board tax when they're quantifying what the taxable value of properties are. So they wanted to be able to have the school board ad valorem also be affected by the Save Our Homes, so that the assessed or the taxable value of properties for local, like the town, or county taxes would also be lowered for the school board taxes.
Again, anything that we can do to lower taxes in any which way, I'm always interested in exploring. And the way that the process works is, once you guys send me some language, because you've obviously sat around and thought about it, send me the language. I like to look at it, and I will put it in bill drafting. So if bill drafting is the first phase in which a bill becomes a law, I'm not going to go through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I promise. But once we get it in bill drafting, I'll go speak to the folks in Ways and Means, which I believe I'm going to be on that committee this coming session. And see how it would be, what the effect would be, because we have to run the traps on it. Because sometimes something that looks very good in a microscopic way could potentially cause a large problem otherwise. But I always start from the perspective of, let's see where we can cut taxes anywhere to all Floridians. But let's look at it.
Okay.
Send me over the language, and I will put absolutely both of those in bill drafting, and we're going to give them a look, and then we'll run the traps to see how it works out.
Do you want us to prepare, because I could work with the deputy town attorney to put, for both of these items, look at the state statutes and send it to you with strike-throughs and underlines of what we propose?
I don't need that. I would not want the town attorney or the town's budget to be spent on bill drafting efforts unless you already have something that's like tangible and you've put in research to determine the viability and you've done a study. I don't want you to do that. All I need is bullet points, and I turn my bullet points into my bill drafting department, and the state has a large bill drafting department that will put it together.
Okay.
Once I get that language back, I will send it back to you.
Got it.
And then you guys you'll look at it further and say, no, yeah, you guys want to put it in this chapter of the statutes, but I think it would be better on this location or whatnot. And we'll go back and forth that way, and I think it'll be more efficient for the town in that manner.
We'll put those
Judy,
together.
do you agree? Yeah.
We'll put those together, and then we'll work with our lobbying team to have them take a look at it and see if they
Absolutely.
believe it's sufficient, and then we'll send it to you once we have that put together.
Yep, perfect.
The third item on this page was an initiative of the mayor's, and I know he's not here. I'm not sure if any of you want to speak on his behalf, or if you're familiar enough with it to speak on his behalf.
The only familiarity I think any of us have is what he put on the dais that day, which was and he referred, I think, to the fact that Senator Marco Rubio, when he was in the House, proposed something similar. I'll be honest, I didn't really understand the full breadth of it, but it was something along the lines of eliminating ad valorem taxes in the town altogether and offsetting that with some of the sales tax revenue that's collected and given to the state. I'm not sure how it would work. I think you would need the mayor's insight on that, but that was the gist of it. It was an offset of state sales tax collected.
Mr. Vice Mayor, if I may add a little bit to that, I think what he wanted to do, Representative, was also, by eliminating the ad valorem, is recapture all the sales tax that's generated here in the town of Miami Lakes, and have that be the offset to the ad valorem. That's the idea.
I think it's a phenomenal idea, but let's put it on paper and let's get into bill drafting. Senator Avila, I think, may have a similar bill already in drafting, and that's one of the things that we do by this process, by getting things put in drafting. The senator and I will meet, and we will discuss the bills that we'll be filing, and you know, I would imagine that he and I would be filing bills for the town of Miami Lakes together, and we'll see how it fleshes out, and then we'll run the traps. And the running the traps is the most important part once we get words on a page, because it'll determine the feasibility, and once we have a good feasible plan that will cut taxes for all of Floridians in reality, we'll be able to kind of push that along and work on getting it passed.
Thank you.
Is that not something that's being done elsewhere? Because the way that it was presented by the mayor, I understood that it was something that was already being done or already being considered.
I haven't seen that particular language, so that's why step one on all of these proposals is please send me the language. And what I'll suggest is every year, approximately, if not more, than 3,000 bills are filed in the Florida House. So is it being done? Possibly, very likely. But I'm not going to say that other representatives don't read all the bills. I read the bills that get presented to the committees that I'm working on, and I read the bills that are important for my community. But there are a lot of bills, so I don't know if it's being done otherwise. But let's see it. Send me the bullet points. Let's put it in drafting. Bill drafting will tell me if that same idea is already being drafted by another member of the House. And if we simultaneously put it in drafting by Senator Brian Avila in the Senate, we'll find out if that idea is bubbling up somewhere else as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, so that's the list of the priorities that the council preliminarily adopted a month or two ago. So now I guess it's on the council to give us direction as to what to present to you for the January meeting, or to present it all to you in January, and then it would be amended at the January meeting, however you want us to proceed.
Representative Fabricio, is there a number that you recommend that this gets scaled to? How many projects or how many total appropriation requests, or can this all, if it's the will of the council? I know we talked about the Optimist probably being, scratched out, but the other projects, and all that be presented, or should we scale down to 5, 6 projects?
So what I'll tell you is, and I kind of mentioned it in the other meeting, but I think it's worth repeating. There are certain criteria that if that criteria is applied to the project, that project will have a higher likelihood of coming all the way across and a check actually being presented, right? That's the goal. I want to stand here with a check and say, you got the money, we're all set, and it all worked out. And the way to get that, and there are larger projects, because every time I say this, somebody will tell me, well, but the town of Kalamazoo got a $15 million project done for this or that. That's true. It happens. But the higher likelihood of a project being done will occur if the project is under $1 million first, and if there are 50-50 matching funds from either the municipality or some other source. And then obviously there are the technicalities of the package being a well thought through project, the forms being filled out properly. That's a lot of what your lobbyists will work with your city manager to get done, and the timeliness of the filing. That's why we want to get them in the sooner the better. So what I generally, and so to answer your question directly, I will put forth all the projects that you send me. You send me a whole set of projects, I will put them all forth. I will ask what your priorities are. And I had a mayor of another town that I no longer represent, in a county I no longer represent, tell me all of my projects are important. It's like asking which is my favorite child. All of my children are my favorite, but they're not my appropriations. You do need to prioritize them. If you don't, someone else will. So we have to prioritize the appropriations, and you do need to pick what is the top one, what are the top three. If you give me 10, I'm going to file all 10, 100%. I think the optics on the park are negative at this point, as far as in light of other priorities for, I would say, the town, in my humble opinion, but as well as South Florida and as well as the state of Florida at this time, just because it's a big ask, and I don't think there's a coalesced plan yet for that. So I would humbly suggest not running that appropriation request this cycle, but otherwise, I'm sorry? Yeah, the phase 2, phase 3 projects that have been previously funded, those will have better likelihoods of success already, because the state has committed to these projects in the past, and that they're moving forward. There's a demonstrable positive effect from prior phase, and there's to some degree a commitment for those multi-phase projects. So that's always better. But I do leave it to you in large part to prioritize them. Once you give me your priorities, I'm happy to, or I'm happy to talk about it right now. If you tell me what your number one project is, I'll tell you what my view of it is, and what I think we can do to have a higher likelihood of success with that particular project. Does that make sense?
Would a project that has an outfall maybe have a greater chance of success because it would connect to a waterway and therefore would have pollution-related concerns, in theory?
Which project are we talking about in particular?
No, I'm just asking generically.
I don't know. Give me a particular project, and we'll talk about the details.
Omar, do any of these projects have an outfall component?
Good evening, Omar Santos, Pablo Works Director. Excuse me, I don't want to give my back to the rest of the group, but yes, off the bat, Northwest 82nd Avenue project does have an outfall component. And I believe Northwest 150 Terrace, which is the Miami Lakes West Lakes Gardens 3rd edition, that will connect to an existing outfall. The Loch Lomond Phase 2, that will connect to an existing outfall. And that's it. Those 3 projects will have.
Yeah, I mean, based on that then, and based on some of the other criteria that you've mentioned, it's a phase 2 project, it's under $1 million. The Loch Lomond project, I think, is enticing and seems like a prime candidate to make a key priority.
I agree.
Yeah, and it also has the outfall component, which makes it, I think, an even stronger candidate. So, I mean, I'm not trying to rank them necessarily right now. Maybe we can come back to it in January.
I was gonna suggest under direction of Omar and town manager and deputy town manager to come to us, so we don't have to be discussing this for hours. What the priority? Obviously, it's evident that Representative Fabricio said something that's a phase 2 and something that's under $1 million, can be deemed as a priority. So
And the match.
match, correct.
Representative, when you say about phase 2s, phase 3s, what if the previous phases, 1, was not funded by the state. For instance, if we did phase one, and now we're asking the state to help us with phase two, you know, is that something that would be higher up on the priority list, or does that really not play into it?
What I would suggest is, if you compare, let's say, for example, the canal restabilization project, where the state played a part in that, in the multiple
that
phases
one,
of
they
that.
paid for all the.
Right. What I would suggest is, once you have a project where the state has become involved at, let's say, phase one or perhaps phase two, that project has already been looked at by that appropriations silo staff, and we've been able to get it across, and we've already had groups of folks who, some will still be there, agree that that's an important project, and the state's been involved. That may have a higher likelihood. However, I would say, let's say there's another project here that's a phase two. However, the town wholly funded phase one. I would feel comfortable arguing that the town has already done an investment here. The town is working towards achieving this goal. The town will also, in this phase two, will have a match to some degree. So I would say that that would be a better project than a project that has no match whatsoever.
Thank you.
As far as the 59th Avenue extension, that was something that was very graciously given and then taketh away. But we completely understand, and if I were in the governor's shoes, I would have made that same determination, right? Because the West Coast is struggling, and I understand that that's the state's priority. Is this something that we should revisit, or were there other reasons for this money to have been not funded?
Well, so you remember, when that money was unfunded, it wasn't that money in particular. It was the entire pool, the whole grant. So it's like what my wife tells my daughter sometimes. You can't take it personally. It wasn't about
Right.
you.
Correct.
It was the whole class got in trouble.
Correct.
So that's how that worked out. So it wasn't anything about that one particular project. But what I would say is,
So is that program available again, or is that money
That-
still being diverted to?
I honestly don't know the status of that money, but I'll look into it, and we'll find out and get back to you on it. What I would tell you with regard to that particular project, just rank it. Have an internal conversation, whether now or when when the mayor and the whole council is together, figure out how important is that particular project vis-a-vis all the other projects that you're presenting. And if that is the number one project, hey, that's the number one project. And if the town council, the people of Miami Lakes tell me that's what they want, that's
Right.
what we're gonna do.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
But I mean, I would suggest that the criteria that we spoke about, once you get beyond the $1 million mark, and the questions about how much of that money, how much match are you having in that program, that will also apply there.
Right.
So as you start growing, the difficulty of getting the money increases.
Okay,
Yeah, and that project has pros and cons. The price tag is over the $1 million, but there is substantial match
Sure.
going on from all kinds of different revenue sources.
and at least for me, that would be one of my priorities.
And
To Representative Fabricio, can you explain some of the changes that have been made in the appropriations process? I understand that there were some.
There have been some changes made in the process as far as the logistics on how the bills are filed and the process moves forward. As far as the filing of the appropriations request and the technicalities of it, a sworn statement will still be required as far as I know, and the deadlines still run the same way.
So substantively, it's basically the same.
Oh, yeah, they're not permitting requests for reoccurring. But none of your requests have been reoccurring to begin with, so. The idea, it's a fiscally conservative view that if you need money from the state, you should go back every year and ask for it again.
With that, Mr. Vice Mayor, I'm going to excuse myself. I have to head down south for the REC meeting.
any other questions from council members to Representative Fabricio or staff?
Nope, just a great big thank you.
No, thank you all.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate
No,
it.
thank you all, and please feel free to reach out. I mean, each of you has my phone number. feel free to call me, have a full conversation about any of this, about whatever, the plans that you're looking at or your concerns or whatever it is. I am a resident of the town of Miami Lakes. I'm your constituent as well. And I think it's important, and vice versa. So whatever there is to be done, I'm happy to do it. And whatever issues you have questions, I'm happy to discuss them further. So thank you so much.
Yeah, on behalf of the mayor and the town council, we thank you, Representative Fabricio, for being here with us today, Nikita, and also from Senator Avila's office, Judy and Alicia. Thank you so much. Meeting is over. Have a blessed evening. Thank you, everyone.